Welcome back to another exciting video, and what we are talking about today is the future of the EVH brand. As the whole world knows by now, the great, the legendary, the iconic, the all-encompassing Eddie Van Halen has passed. And I have spent the last few days, as many people I know have, on YouTube, looking at videos, reading articles, just kind of getting caught up on everything that's happening. Because to say that we lost an icon is such an understatement. And I've been seeing that all over YouTube. We lost a legend, we lost an icon. No, we didn't. We lost so much more than that. When I think of a legend or an icon, I think of Stevie Ray Vaughan, or I think of Jimi Hendrix. Eddie Van Halen completely encompassed everything music and guitar related. His abilities, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there, I think his abilities outweighed 99.999% of the people in this world. Easily. Not only was he an accomplished guitarist, he was also an accomplished pianist. And the guy was an absolute riff meister. Oh my God. I mean, he just, for days, the guy could just write brilliant riffs. And I actually watched a thing with Sammy Hagar, and they were talking about that on YouTube. And he said, Eddie just wrote these amazing riffs, and as soon as I heard it, I could instantly put melody and lyrics to it. Because the music Eddie Van Halen was writing was so great, it made it easy for Sammy to do his job. And to me, that's a huge testament in the songwriting. But regardless of that, after watching all the stuff, I really kind of got to thinking, what's going to happen to the EVH brand? As we all know, it's owned by Fender. And we all know that Fender will whore out anything that Fender owns. Case in point, Jackson guitars. Back in the 80s when Grover Jackson owned them, Jackson made an absolutely amazing guitar. Nowadays, they're terrible. Go to any guitar store and play a Jackson. They're terrible. You pick an EVH off the wall, well, it's kind of hard to find a USA EVH hanging on walls in a lot of music stores. But they play amazingly. But Eddie Van Halen still had his signature on it, and he was alive, and he was still, the final thought of everything that happened. What's going to happen now that he has passed? To say Eddie was a guitar player that's idiotic. He wasn't a guitar player. Like I said, he encompassed everything that was music. I think his love was playing music, but I think his passion was tone. And at one point, if you're a guitar player, I don't care what you play, you've sat down at your amp or whatever it is that you used and you screwed around with it, trying to figure out if you could get EVH's tone. And you could probably get close, but you can't get the tone because EVH's tone is right here. I can take my Wolfgang through an EVH 5153, play Panama, and it sounds like Trace Taylor playing a Wolfgang through a 5153 playing Panama. He can take the same exact guitar, my guitar, going through my amp, and it'll sound just like Eddie Van Halen. Because it's here. Nobody has that swagger that Eddie Van Halen has when it comes to playing guitar. But back in the day when he started using his Marshall amps, and we've all heard the stories, and all the different ways that he got his tone and what he used, what he didn't use. Lord, we all know that. And he originally signed on a deal with Kramer to play Kramer guitars, which he played for a lot of years, actually. And then he jumped over to Music Man. As things started to grow, and he was constantly going after a better tone. And then he went over to Music Man and made some brilliant guitars. And Lord, I wish I had lots of those right now. But he ended up leaving Music Man because Music Man just could not produce the guitars fast enough, because Music Man's a very small company. Case in point, I ordered a John Petrucci in white, a John Petrucci 7. This was several years ago. They told me 6 months before I got my hands on it. Luckily, they located me one in some little rinky-dink shop out in California, so I bought that from that guy. But 6 months for them to get me a guitar. So that kind of goes back to the point of why Eddie Van Halen was so unhappy with Music Man, even though they produced some amazing guitars. And which was quite a takeoff from his old body style of the S-shaped guitars. He kind of did more of a Les Paul variation, because Eddie Van Halen loved the sound of a Les Paul, but he liked what you could do with a Fender, so he married the two together. And that's actually what brought out the Music Man, was the marriage between the two. And so after he left them, he went to Peavey and continued on. And the tone grew even more with the Peavey Wolfgangs, which are personally my favorites. They're just brilliant guitars, and they're tanks. They're indestructible. But then that also brought on the 5150 amplifier and the 5152 amplifier, which, as wild as those amplifiers were and uncontrollable, that was the beauty of that amplifier, is it was uncontrollable. And that amplifier made it onto more metal stages, and you can I mean, it was just, that amp was balls out. And the fact that it was uncontrollable is why it made it onto so many metal stages, because that was an incredibly lively amp. The tone on it was unmistakable Eddie Van Halen, but the downfall of it is it shared channel 1 and 2, which is a bad thing, because in my opinion, an amp needs 3 true channels, their own gain stages, their own EQs, their own everything. Well, after an interesting tidbit, when he made the Music Man guitars, it only had a volume on it. He was dead set that a guitar doesn't need a tone. And then when he went to Peavey, same thing. And he and Hartley Peavey actually got into a little bit of a spat about that, because Hartley insisted it had to have a tone. Eddie did not want a tone. Obviously, Hartley ended up winning out, because you make the guitars for the masses, and because you ultimately you have to sell the guitars. And I got to be honest, I play the Peavey Wolfgangs. I don't think I've ever once turned that tone knob. So with or without it, I don't think it would have made a bit of difference, to be honest with you. Well, after the falling out between him and Hartley Peavey, he decided to move on to Fender, and where the culmination of everything he learned from guitars and amps now resides. He had control over it. He had control over the tone, and actually Eddie Van Halen has the patent on the headstock. So he owns that particular headstock for that guitar, because that's what you patent is headstocks. You cannot patent guitar bodies, but you can patent headstocks. And through the culmination, we went through the EVH guitars, and they had maple necks on them. Then we went to ebony necks, and then we've had a couple different variations of the pickups as the guitars went on. Then we had the 5153, and then we moved on to the 5153 EL34, and then we moved on to the 5153 Stealth, because it was a continual growth of tone. It was a never-ending passion for him. And now that he's passed, what happens now? Because, like I said, Fender, they just whore out other people's products. I think Fender's a terrible company when it comes to that. And let's see here. Let's take a look. Good old internet. It's amazing what you can find on the internet. That is shocking. But let's take a look at this. Some of the stuff that Fender owns. EVH guitars. Yeah, scares me that they own that. They own Gretsch. They own Charvel guitars. Know what they did to those. The 80 Charvels, fantastic. The new ones, eh. And actually, if you want a current Charvel, buy a Wayne, because it's Wayne Charvel. You're going to pay through the nose for it, but he actually makes the guitar correctly. The ones Fender makes, no. They own Jackson, and let me tell you, they butchered Jackson. They destroyed the Jackson name. Squire. Let's see here. What else does... See if we got they own Guild, Sun Amplifier, SWR, Tacoma, Cayman Music, Bigsby. So kind of gives you an idea of what's going on. Now, there's nothing wrong with the company diversifying, I understand that. But it's like anything else. The bigger they go, the crappier their products become. And I mean, if you want a really good Fender, you got to buy a custom shop. Let's be honest, you're not getting a good one off the wall, or I've never really gotten a good one off the wall. And the one Fender that I've actually bought in my life, I had a Fender Blonde. I had the lace sensor pickups in it, which was a brilliant guitar. I plucked it off the wall and took it straight to Rick. And said, dude, make this guitar playable. And he did. Because it really wasn't that playable when I bought it. And I've played a lot of Jacksons since Fender has taken it over, because I do love the Jacksons, especially the early Jacksons, when they had all the different designs and the themes on them. They're just a brilliant guitar. And I got to be honest, I've never taken one off a wall that has played good. Never. Not since they bought them. And when Grover was making them, they all played good, because Grover had that final say-so, kind of like what EVH has on his guitars. Kind of ironic. I was watching Ola England, and they were cutting a track, and they were using, if I'm not mistaken, they were using EVH amps, And before they could send it out, they had to get Eddie Van Halen's approval because they were using his amps. I dig that. I dig that. So well, they bought the amp. They can do what they want to with it. Well, I understand that, but if they're going to go out and do any type of marketing, and I'm not saying that's what they were doing, to get the man's approval, I think is pretty poignant when it comes to how much he cares for the product that he makes. And I got to be honest, I got two opinions on this. With Fender owning it and Eddie Van Halen passing, I think that the product and the brand I think it's in its demise stage right now. Fender's going to go after money no matter what. You know, if they want to add some colors, I'm down with that. I think that's the one thing where they fell right now. And they were getting Eddie Van Halen had control over that, I'm pretty sure. But, you know, the Music Man made beautiful colors. The PV came in beautiful colors. The EVHs, not so much. I wish they would open up the palette a little bit more. But I have two very strong opinions about this. One, nothing new is produced, period. The current line we have is where it stays forever. No new amps, no new guitars, no new pickups and guitars. There's not one person in Fender who understands tone the way Eddie Van Halen understands tone. Nobody in Fender can do a better job than what he did. Nobody. And actually, how the whole thing started at Fender is one of the guys that worked at Fender made a relic of the 5150, the Frankenstrap, and he made it verbatim exactly like Eddie Van Halen's guitar, and which we all know that the tone of that guitar is legendary. That's how the whole thing got started. So that's what kind of got the whole thing moving forward with Eddie Van Halen, and the guy was just obsessed with tone. There's nothing they can do to improve what is already done. And one of my two opinions is they need to leave it alone, add nothing else, do nothing else. They can keep dicking around with their Fender guitars, their Jackson guitars, and their Charvel guitars, which are just Jackson guitars, which are just Fender guitars. They're all the same now. They can keep dicking around with all that and doing whatever they want to do and add their colors, their pickups, and add different radiuses and whatever. Everything in EVH needs to be left alone, not touched. The versions we have now are the versions we will have till we die. Nothing else. Keep producing them. Don't change anything. Don't start putting cheap-ass parts in them to try to get to your bottom dollar, because Fender will do that in a heartbeat. Keep them the quality amplifiers and the quality guitars they are right now. Keep the EVH factory separate. Keep that little division separate from Fender like it is now, to where they're made in their own little world. Keep it that way now. Don't change anything. My other opinion is shut it down. Close it up. Because there's nothing they can do to improve upon that. And all they're going to do is bastardize EVH from this point on. And they're going to get every single penny out of it they can. Now, they have that right. They are a corporation. I'm talking strictly on the fact that EVH without EVH, from the time he started up until now, the tone evolved, constantly evolved. It never stopped evolving. It was always in the next stage. Now there's no next stage. Without Eddie Van Halen, there is no next stage. And you take PRS, and I have nothing but admiration for Paul Reed Smith. I think he's a great guy. Obviously, I've never met him, but I have read about him. I've watched a lot of videos and stuff about him. And I really get into his long distance stuff. That's actually pretty cool, where he just randomly calls these people. They talk on YouTube. It's fantastic. But I have so much admiration for Paul Reed Smith. But when Paul Reed Smith passes, the factory will continue on like it is. When I think of tone and I don't think of Paul Reed Smith. He makes great guitars. I don't own any. I've never owned one. I've never found one that fit me. And being a guitar player, that's what it comes down to. If your guitar doesn't fit you, it doesn't matter what it is. You can buy all the Andersons and pay $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 you want. If it doesn't fit you, it simply doesn't fit you. You got to find a guitar that fit you. And the one that fit me the most, the best, was actually the EVH. And still does, even though I'm kind of on my Ibanez kick right now. And I'm kind of really digging the Ibanezes. But the guitar that's nearest and dearest to my heart will always be the EVH. But, when Les Paul, you remove Les Paul from the picture, Les Paul continues on because it's a guitar. They're going to keep making the same pickup. The company will do this, that, the other, so on and so on, and improve on that. Leo Fender and his guitars, PRS and his guitars, John Suhr and his guitars. When those guys pass or have passed, it's not going to affect the company too much because the company's not that innovative. I said it. There. I just came out and said it. The companies are not that innovative. EVH was incredibly innovative. The never-ending series of chasing that perfect tone. And like I said, from the day he started until the day he died, we were always in the next stage of tone. Always. Changing out necks, changing out pickups, changing out body styles, this type of wood, that type of wood, this many preamps in it, these kind of tubes with this kind of power section. It was just a continual evolution of sound. And since EVH is no longer the man, not he's no longer the man, but the man is no longer here, I think that Fender should not make any other product. Leave it like it is, and that, like I said, that's what we have the rest of our life, or close it down altogether and be done. EVH without EVH is pointless because it's not just a guitar. It's a culmination of one man's entire life. But nobody has a more heralded tone than Eddie Van Halen. Nobody. And in my opinion, nobody knows tone like Eddie Van Halen. So there's nowhere for the company to grow to. This is it. The company is now at its pinnacle. It is at its event horizon. This is where we're at. Close it down. Don't make any more new product. One of the two. For the love of God, Fender, please do not bastardize that product line like I know you're going to do, because you're going to keep it open and you're going to start putting, at one point, I'm telling you, you're going to start bastardizing the hell out of it. And if you got to do it on the specials and those cheap ones, those $500 EVHs. Don't do it on the American models. And like I said, that's just my opinion, because I was kind of wondering what was going to happen to the future of EVH, and it does not look good, to say the least. And if it was owned by anybody probably then Fender, I would probably have some hope in the future. But being owned by Fender, I have no hope, because I've seen what they've done to all the other guitar companies that they have purchased, and they've all gone downhill. None of them are as good as they were from their original makers. On that note, we are going to wrap this up. This is just kind of something that was on my brain that I just kind of wanted to throw out there, and hopefully some people will watch this and kind of give me their ideas on it, because I just, like I said, I truly feel that this is the end of an era, as corny as that sounds, as much as I hate to say that. But not only did we lose the man, we lost the ear, we lost the sound, we lost everything that comes with that. And, a man that was trying to give us the best tone between his instruments that he could. And I know and before I close this up, Mesa Boogie does that. They try to give us the best tone. Well, Marshall does, they try to give us the best tone. No. If you've never played a Wolfgang through a 5153, I highly recommend you do. Then you'll understand what I'm talking about. Because you don't have to do anything. Turn it on. Instant tone. You don't have to do anything. Hell, you can run the EQ completely flat. You don't have to do anything. A Wolfgang through a 5153, instant tone. Instant amazing tone. To where when I've had my Mesa Boogies, oh man, I had a triple wreck. It was horrible. I hated that amplifier. But when I had my Randall RM100 and I had my Marshall JBMs, I had to tweak and turn and tweak and turn, which you do with your amps, of course. But I'm telling you, hook up a Wolfgang or any really good guitar with a PAF, which means patent applied for, if you did not know that, a PAF pickup. Hook it up to a 5153. The tone is amazing. Out of the box, the tone is amazing. Throw a Wolfgang on top of that, you're done. Throw in some delay, reverb, you've got great tone out of the box. I can't say that about any other product I've ever played in my life except EVH. I fear for the company. And I hope for the best, but I expect the worst because it's Fender. So on that note, Hope you liked the video, just my opinions. If you have any comments about it, I'd kind of like to know what you think about it, because personally I think I'm right, that Fender's going to bastardize the hell out of the company and ruin what is just an amazing, iconic, fantastic product. And I think they're going to kill it. It's Fender. That's what Fender does. If you have any comments, put it down in the comments section. If you have any questions, put it down in the comments section. I'm actually getting that right. Damn it, because I always say questions section. I'm actually that's starting to sink into my memory. Please subscribe to the channel. As always, I've got some really cool stuff coming up. And this was actually not a planned video. This is when I was just sitting around watching videos, and then I got to thinking, well, what happens next? So I just wanted to kind of kick this out there really quick and, hopefully get some opinions on what other people think about it. So on that note, grab that guitar. If you've not played a Wolfgang, by all means, play one, an American one. And if you've never played through a 5153 amp, you need to play through one and hang on, because they're brutal. Strap up that guitar, practice hard, and play hard, and rock hard.